All right, everyone, welcome back. I'm going to hand it over to Julie to facilitate today's participatory discussion.
Hello, everyone. My name is Julie Hardesty. I'm a metadata analyst at Indiana University. Let me share my screen. Yes. All right. And I'm going to get this chat open here. Okay. Oof. Let me see here. Okay, great. So, yes. So my name is Julie. I'm a metadata analyst at Indiana University. And today I'm also coming to you as an open source enthusiast. I proposed this initially as a breakout session to happen outside of the conference time, but the organizers for Samvera Virtual Connect thought this would be a good conversation to bring into the conference proper. So here we are, and this is a discussion, and there's going to be opportunities for participation. I have 3 survey questions that I'll be inviting you all to answer, and if everything works out, then we'll be able to do this and see the responses live. So I'm interested in fostering some discussion about participating in open source work. So why folks are interested in participating, what you see as barriers to participating, and what your institutions expect or support for being part of the Samvera community. So open source work involves building something together as a community that we can all use and share rather than paying in exchange for a product or service. So I'm also interested in pointing out information from the Samvera community about participating in development and testing, documentation, and how interest groups and working groups fit into all of this in our community. So with that, I'm going to move forward here with our first question. So our first question is just a straight up yes, no, or unsure. Do you think your institution supports you contributing to Samvera open source work? And what I have done here is set up a form for this. I'm going to copy, actually, I've got it over here with the question. I will copy this link and put it in the chat. So you can either use the QR code to get to this form and respond on your on a mobile device, or you can use the link there in the chat to respond. And I'll give it. I'm not quite sure how long to give it, but I'll give it just a little bit here and just see how their answers come in, and then we can move on to the next question. Still getting responses coming in. Let's see. Wonder if the bar gives us any. Ooh, there we go. Okay. That's a better view. All right. You can continue responding to this, but looks like we've got about half of the folks on responding, so that's pretty good at this point. And just a lot of yeses, which is really nice. So that's good to see. I'm going to move on to our second question. We're going to come back and be discussing all of these questions more completely. So this next question is what interests you about participating in Samvera open source work? And this one is set up as a word cloud text response. Let me get this copied and pasted into the chat here so you can get to it. So we'll see a word cloud, but you can also just give whatever response you want to give. So it can be multiple words, but if you can also do multiple responses. So if you have multiple things you want to respond with, that is absolutely what you should do. So this one, I can't really gauge how many people have responded since you can do multiple responses, but I'll give this just a little bit of time. We can see how things shape up here. Get a lot of responses. Let's see what everything's. Oh, okay, we've got a lot of responses here. Great. I'll go back over to the word cloud. Cool. So we have a lot about community and sharing in the word cloud sense, at least. We can dig into that a little bit more. Awesome. All right, so you can continue going with that one. I'm going to jump back over for our final question. Question number 3, what do you see as barriers to participating in Samvera open source work? So this is the form for this one. Let me get this into the chat. And again, this is going to be word cloud. So however you want to respond with text, and you can respond multiple times if you want to. I like how the time came in all caps. Okay. Time and knowledge and resources is coming up a lot in the word cloud. But we can also dig into this more. And this is one you can continue responding to. Get that down here. Okay. All right. So now this is a snapshot. This is not anything official. So, but let's take a look at what we've got going on here, and let's talk about this. So you can unmute. We can talk on chat here in Zoom, however you want to do this. But what we're seeing here is that a majority of folks here today, at least, think your institution would support you contributing to Samvera open source work, which is really great. There are some folks who are unsure whether or not their institution would support that or not. And I'm kind of interested in if there's any unpacking or support that Samvera Community can do, if we can do outreach to institutions that are participating or involved somehow, but you're not quite sure that you, as coming from that institution, would be able to participate. If there's some way to help find out what that might look like. Then for what interests folks about participating, it's a lot of community and sharing. So all the responses here, working together for sustainability, helping, keeping open source going, and having collaboration, helping to support since we use Samvera software. Oh, there's some social, making friends and socializing. Yes, this is the kind of a thing that was a saying that was out there in the community early on. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Upskilling, so learning new things. Oh, ethics, that's cool. And then the final question, what do you see as barriers to participating in Samvera open source work? So learning curve and who to contact, how to get started, having enough people to devote hours to sprints, perception of an unsupportive environment. Oh, there's more responses coming in. Not having a say at your institution about whether or not you're participating. Yeah. The staff reductions. I was seeing something about budget cuts in here as well. So things like that are happening at this point in time. Okay. Trying to not sure how to do contributions that are not writing code. That's something I've heard previously. It's a time is a big one. Imposter syndrome. That is a real feeling for sure. The code complexity, that is. So, and Heather is showing, offering in the chat um, that she has community manager office hours for any sort of questions that folks have, which is fantastic. And she is definitely a great place for getting started. The GitHub repo is chaotic and confusing. I wonder if that is like any of the GitHub repos in Samvera or just all of it. There are several things happening in the Samvera GitHub repository environment at this point, for sure. And small development team again, so yes, and a lot of time. So yeah, is there anything in here that from any of these questions that people are wanting to talk about, or is this making you feel differently than when we first started discussing open source participation?
I could kick it off, Julie, just by saying that um it's helpful to see with some of the barriers because of the roadmap work that we're doing right now, really trying to prioritize simplifying some of that chaos, making it both easier to participate and sort of ease of deployment work that's being done. Took a while to get that chaotic, it's taking a while to get out of it, but uh, I think it reflects that that's a good priority that we've got.
Mm, yes. Yeah, and Rebecca is also mentioning that the Hyrax maintenance working group has QA testers, and that is a non-code activity, non-coding activity, doing testing on the applications as development work is happening. And it's a scripted sort of activity that takes you through different steps to different things to try for checking that things are still working as development happens. And I think that is from the previous presentation from Daniel. So this, I think, is, I'm going to get back over to the word cloud here. Whoosh, okay. So that is a bit of a hot take for today, but I think it was something I wanted to kind of do. If we were doing a breakout session, I would have been potentially just asking the same sorts of questions and having a discussion there. Yeah, and the ethics is interesting, and I think there's potentially a little bit of that I'll get into at the very end for this. But I agree that is an interesting concept, interesting thing to bring into discussing participating in open source community as an ethical decision. So, but I think what I want to do at this point with the last few minutes of this is to go through and share some of the resources that I know about. And what I'm gonna, I've been involved in the community for a while now, and so there are things that I know about, and there's potentially things that I am not even aware of at this point. So particularly with documentation, some of this I'm pretty sure is good, but then I'm not actually sure that I have everything listed here. So we'll see how this looks to everybody that might know more about some areas than I do. So some of this might actually be a bit old at this point. But definitely let me know if there's anything that I'm not listing here that should be. And a lot of this, it looks to me like it is developer and contributor focused. Although Avalon Media System, they do have documentation that focuses on end users and folks who would be managing their content using Avalon. But we don't really have that type of documentation available in the community, at least for Hyrax, or I think also for Haiku. So I think that is an interesting thing to note about the status of documentation overall. And then the links that I have listed here, if they don't say GitHub in them, that means they're located on the Samvera wiki. So it looks like we've got, to me, it looks like we've got two different areas where we're hosting documentation, and that is within our GitHub repository system in Samvera, and also over on the Samvera wiki. And the Samvera development knowledge base has a Hyrax and Haiku focus. And I can open this up real quickly and show it. And this is an updated, it's kind of a porting over of an older knowledge base that existed that was not being kept up to date. And this is brought over at this point. My understanding is that we've brought over what we consider to be good information from that older system. And this is something that still needs to be filled out more. We have more areas of information that could be more documentation that could be provided here. But this is kind of the main, what we consider Samvera development knowledge base, something that can gather everything up in a single spot, I think is the hope. And then Avalon Media System over on the Samvera wiki is a focused area for just for Avalon, and they've used this for quite a while. So this is the documentation for end users and collection managers. You can see a collections guide and batch ingesting, and also for developers and contributors, ways to get started and get the development environment, get a development environment running, that sort of thing. So that's available on the wiki. And then for Hyrax, we've got over on GitHub, there's a README document, and there's also a GitHub wiki. And the README document gets into how to actually run the code and how to do how to make contributions, that sort of thing. So this is a developer contributor focus. And then the Hyrax GitHub wiki has a lot of information that's being shared here. There's several pages, many pages. And not all of it is up to date. Not all of it is current. There's some older information that hangs out here. And I think there's been an attempt to try and note when things are deprecated or no longer valid for current Hyrax, but there's probably some more work to be done there to kind of clean up what's happening in this area of the GitHub wiki. But there is still actually a lot of information here that is useful too. So that's for Hyrax is what we have. And then for Haiku, this is where I'm not exactly sure if my information is completely accurate. We've got the Getting Started guide, which is looks like it's developer contributor oriented. So being able to run locally with Docker, doing things to get things set up and run Haiku. And then for there's a development wiki that's over on GitHub as well. And that also has quite a lot of information available for working in Haiku. And I think that is, it's looking fairly, to me, it's looking fairly, fairly robust. Then there's also this Haiku documentation, which is over on the wiki. And this I'm not as sure about if it is as relevant anymore. It's got information, looks like it's potentially historical information about the Haiku project. It talks about releases up through Haiku 5, which is a couple years old at this point. So this is available on the wiki, but might not be the most up-to-date information about haiku. So that is my overall sense of documentation that we have at this point. And then I also wanted to pop through trying things out. So for Hyrax, we've already talked about these things. Some of this has been shared. Let's see. But you can, I wanted to point out that with each of these, the Fedora 4 Hyrax, Postgres Hyrax, and Fedora 6 Hyrax, you can actually sign up immediately to give things a try. You can just use an email and set up password, and you can actually do create a work and try things out that way on each of these setups. And then locally, there's also the how to run information, how to run the code information over on GitHub is using Docker, and it is something that you can set up. I'm able to use to get this running using Docker on my Mac laptop, and it's nothing fancy. So this is that is something that you really literally can get up and running locally. It's pretty self-contained in Docker and is not it's possible to do it. So that's basically, I just want to say I can do it. So it is possible to definitely do this. And these are all kind of displaying this Valkyrization work that's happened, which is kind of the latest effort here. So separating out that storage layer from the web app and making a connector that's using an adapter. And that allows for better performance, better migration experience, and the ability to change out the backend. So being able to try the same thing, Hyrax web application with these different backends is what that's all about. So then Avalon also has a demo site. In the info here, you can also sign up immediately to give this a try. So I just wanted to point that out. If you go over here to do sign in, you can do a sign up here as well and create a username and email and password and give things a try with Avalon with the latest version that they have up and running. And they also have a quick start development with Docker available over on their GitHub. And that is not something that I have tried, so I'm not exactly sure how self-contained that is to use or how easy that is to get going. But that is also available to try Avalon locally. And then Haiku, this was news to me as of yesterday. So the new testing and demo sites that are available, and you can contact Nick Stanton Rourke for login access to either the Haiku staging or Haiku demo sites. And there is information about getting started with Docker on GitHub. That's I think a way to try this out in a local sense, but it's a multi-tenant Hyrax installation essentially. So I'm not exactly sure how well that works to try things locally, and that's not an option that I've tried yet. So anyway, those options are available out there as ways for trying out Haiku. And then I think some of this has been shared in the chat, but for contributing, things to consider. There are the top thing that I want to talk about is documentation needs. So we have this is set up for the sprint that's coming up, but this is also something the documentation working group has worked really hard on is this project board where they're tracking documentation needs, and you can see what's been reported, what's being worked on, and also things that have been completed. So Hyrax and Haiku are definitely being tracked. Documentation needs are being tracked through here and worked on as we go. But I think there's potential for this to work for helping to improve our documentation situation overall in the community. And this is something that is I think a big priority right now. So this documentation sprint that's happening next week, which I think was shared in the chat. This is just the Google sign up. I'm going to put this right there for people in the chat to sign up for that documentation sprint. Anytime that you can give, this is not something that's requiring you to be there for 40 hours next week. So any sort of contribution that you can give is going to be helpful. Particularly being able to report or work through any of the documentation needs that we have. And then for code changes and requests, getting into development work, it's more development work focused. Like I said, there's information on how to contribute to Hyrax. that's over on the GitHub wiki. So there's a contribution guide, and you can get into what that looks like, how to dig in, reporting issues. That's part of doing this development contribution, is reporting when there are issues. And then going through how to actually make changes and give this a try if you're wanting to get into some coding work. That is all quite possible to just pick up and try. In addition, though, we also have interest groups and working groups. So the Hyrax interest group, the Avalon Users Roundtable, and the Haiku interest group are kind of the top points for those different software pieces that we have within the community. And they're great ways to get introduced to folks that are working in these areas in Samvera. Ask questions, get help getting started with anything, report any issues that you're encountering. These are all links that you'll be able to see what the meeting schedules are like. They tend to meet at least once a month. And the working groups that come off of these, like the Hyrax maintenance and working group that was discussed earlier, are other ways to get directly involved in testing and contributing. And I want to leave just a couple minutes for questions. So my ending point here, let me see if I can get over to the end here. My ending point here is that I want to encourage this community to continue being a community. And the more we work together, the more we learn as individuals and collectively about producing systems with features that enable digital collection repository management for discovery and access. This helps all of us understand more about what we need from these systems. We learn from each other about development and project management practices, how systems like these can function, how they can enable longer-term management and preservation of institutional research output, and digitized archives and special collections that are unique to our institutions. I think we are also modeling something important in the world right now. There's that ethics coming in. So working together as a community for a common good, not just for individual needs or the needs of one institution or company. And all of this is, in the end, is meant to help researchers, faculty, and students do the work they need to do so they can discover, teach, learn, and create new knowledge. So anyway, thank you for being here and participating in this conversation today. And let me look back over if there are any questions that folks have.